Greetings, fellow ukuleleans. Jeff Weinberger coming at you here with a new ukulele tutorial. I'd like to talk about chord types today. Of course, that song I was playing was Martha and the Vandellas, Heat Wave. We won't be learning that song today, although if you want me to show you that song, I'd be happy to. But the reason I use that is because it has certain chords in it. It has major chords and it has minor chords. And that's what the big subject of today is going to be, our chord types. And so let's talk about chord types. There's, of course, major chords, there's minor chords, there's seventh chords. You might have even heard about chords called ninth chords, power chords. I'm here to demystify some of that for you today. We won't get into the deep music theory, but we'll get into a little bit of music theory. So let's dive right in. So the first thing to know about chords is that they are composed of intervals. And all an interval is the space between two notes. So when you go from one note to the next note, that's an interval. For instance, from the note C to D, here's the note C, your C string open, and then D, the second fret on your C string. So the distance between C and D, that's known as a whole step in music, or 2 frets on the ukulele. It's 1, 2 frets away. And so there's a perfect example of an interval. And then in formal music theory terms, we call that a major second. When you have a whole step or 2 frets on the ukulele, that's a major second. So that's what an interval is. There's other types of intervals like thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, octaves, unisons, etc. So that's the definition of an interval. And chords are made up of 2 or more intervals. Way back in the day, before the Baroque period of music, before Bach and Vivaldi and Telemann and all of those guys, way back there was Gregorian chant. And Gregorian chant did not use major chords, minor chords, the kind of modern chords that we hear today from the Baroque period on. They actually used more intervals. So a lot of Gregorian chant music uses an interval of, say, a fifth, notes that are 5 notes apart, like here I have D and A, D, E, F, G, A, D, E, F, G, A, 5 notes apart, a fifth. So Gregorian chant has a lot of those in it, fifths. It actually has a lot of fourths in it too. Fourths are, for instance, the distance between G and C. G, A, B, C. 4 notes, a fourth. There's G and C right there. I'll play some fourths. So you hear that in Gregorian chant, you hear that in Asian music quite a bit too, fourths. And then you have octaves, which are notes that are 8 notes apart. So an octave, from D to D, for instance, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. 8 notes. So octaves you hear all the time. They're a really nice interval. We sing them, we play them on guitar, we play them on ukulele. So that's an octave. And then you have unisons. Unisons are 2 of the same note. So if I had an A, for instance, on the 5th fret of my E string, and I had an open A, well, those are the same note. Unison. Just like 2 people singing the same note. So those are the kind of intervals that you had before you started having major chords and minor chords, way back in the Gregorian chant days, in medieval times, the Dark Ages, however you want to say it. And so a harmonic interval is the smallest possible unit. So a harmonic interval is like a unison, like that. And then you have melodic intervals, and those are 2 notes in succession. So like C to D, as I was saying earlier. That's known as a melodic interval. So when you play a scale, that's composed of melodic intervals. And then a chord is basically 3 or more notes. Although a power chord, we could call rock and roll power chords, those only have 2 notes in them, like, and Gregorian chant. But short of that, short of power chords, we have triads, 3-note chords, like our good old C chord. That's the first kind of triad we're going to learn about today. So what is a C chord? Well, it is the notes C, E, and G. On the ukulele, I have the note G, I have the note C, I have the note E, all open strings, and finally I have the note C. That's what my finger's holding down, an octave higher than our open C. So C chord really has C, E, and G.